I'm going to silence it, otherwise it'll make this funny noise. And now there's just a little bit of a lack, so we'll see them in a second. And
Oh, I
everything's already
completely
here.
shut it down so it wouldn't distract me. So I'm not going to watch the live
Perfect.
chat.
Okay, very cool. And I'm just going to go ahead and say hi. Let's see. It should be starting. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so I see the ad, so I think we're on.
Hey.
Hello, Stacy. Let's see here. Sorry, guys, I don't know if we're live or not. Alrighty, I think we're on it. Okay, guys, welcome to our creative journey, and I'm Shanique, and I'm going to be hosting it. So we're so excited to have you here. So I am with the fabulous artist Andrea Mercier, and we're super excited to be interviewing her today. This is a collaboration. It's called Our Creative Journey, and it's a collaboration to get to know other artists on YouTube, and hopefully to be inspired by them, which I know we will definitely be inspired by Andrea, and just to learn a little bit about her artistic journey. And I love doing interviews with artists and hearing about their story. I think it's such an inspiration, and it encourages me to take risks and to put myself out there. So I'm so excited to do this interview. So these will be bi-monthly interviews. So Andrea is our first interview, and we're so excited that was brave enough to do it. So fun. Okay, Andrea, so I'm going to start with the first question. So how long have you been an artist?
Interestingly enough, when I was a small child, I loved to draw, but growing up in the 70s, there was a very distinct criteria for what an artist was, and I was told by the adults in my life that, yeah, you can't draw. So I completely gave up on that dream of drawing, and it was later on in life where I decided that I needed to have some kind of creative outlet, but I took many other paths. I was a knitter, a crocheter, I tried pottery, I tried everything, but I always wanted to learn to paint. I didn't learn to paint until 2011, and I haven't been a serious artist really since mid 2015. So this is a very new journey for me.
Yes, that is amazing. Wow. And since you were a little kid, someone tried to discourage your dream, but I'm glad that you
Well,
got back into it.
I was never a realistic artist, and
Yes,
that was the criteria, right?
that's
If you
very
could
true.
reproduce something so that it looked the same thing on paper, then you were considered an artist, and if you didn't, then you weren't.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad now that that's not the criteria anymore, that it's more open. It's an open
Uh,
interpretation of what art is and how unique we are. That's awesome. Okay. So what type of art do you create?
I am what is called an abstract impressionist. I went to school to learn to be a realistic artist. That was my dream, was to go back to that criteria and prove that I could be a real artist by creating realistically. And although I was successful in school, I found it painful. I found it, there was a lot of effort that I had to put in to create the realistic drawings or paintings, and it wasn't as enjoyable as I thought it should be. So I was inspired by my mixed media professor, Amy Shizzle, who's phenomenal. And she's like, you don't have to make it realistic, you do whatever you want. And I thrived in her class. And then I started kind of with this idea of using abstract, but the impressionism was is that you could see something through it that might not be realistic, but you'd still be able to get a sense of what I was creating.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow. Well, I'm so glad that you had a mentor that allowed you to be yourself and that encouraged you to create in the
Absolutely.
way
He
that is
was
so authentic to you. Absolutely. We definitely appreciate that because your art is so unique. It's so amazing.
my fluid acrylic pours are definitely unique. You can see one of my big ones in the background. As we'll talk about later, it was kind of an accident, but it speaks to me. It speaks volumes to me.
Absolutely. Okay. And the next question is, what inspires you to create?
Um, that's an interesting question too, because I don't know if it's really inspiration or if it's necessity. Because as I spoke of earlier, even though it took me a long time to get into visual arts, I was knitting or crocheting. I was always trying to keep busy in my spare time. So it's not really sometimes about inspiration. It's about having an image in my head and trying to get it out onto a two-dimensional substrate. So it's like I have to get it out of my brain somehow. I'm not sure how, but it's got to get out there. So inspiration is part of it because I can see something and go, oh, wow, that's really cool. I love the palette or I love the movement and I want to do it. But a lot of times it's just get it out of my brain.
That's amazing. I'm the same way too. It's like you just have something inside of you and it has to come out. That's amazing.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think everybody has that. They get the image in their brain, but then they don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to get it out.
Absolutely. And it's like you said, it doesn't have to be realistic. And I think a lot of times we get hung up on that. Sometimes it's not realistic. We have to
Yeah,
see, yes, we're that inspiration, how we can incorporate it into our own style. So that's very true.
it
Wow.
is. And realism has its place.
Yes.
However, in our digital age, if you want a picture of, you can take a picture of something. And I think that abstract really brings something. It brings, first of all, freedom because you don't have to be able to recreate something. And it lets you take something and change it, kind of like how Picasso did with Cubism, right? He changed it so that you could see all three sides or all four sides at the same time. So I think that that's an important part of abstract art.
Wow. Very cool. Okay. Do you have any products or projects that you want us to know about?
I am currently working on a huge gallery show right now. It's called Collusion Art Exhibit. And I have an art partner named Arlene Murphy. And what we are doing is, this is one of the backgrounds. So these are all 3 feet by 4 feet. And I do a fluid acrylic pour background. And then Arlene uses oil paints and does an image on top. And we did one last year as part of a show, and it got so much buzz because there is no historic evidence really of two artists working like that on the same canvas, let alone on 20 canvases.
Wow.
Artists tend to be very possessive of their artwork, which is, perfectly fine. Whereas I'll do a fluid acrylic pour background, I will give it to Arlene, and she doesn't even show me the image. She won't let me see the image until, she said in April I would be allowed to see them before we got ready to do our install. So it's unique, it's different, and we're really trying to leverage that uniqueness and attract people who aren't normally part of the arts community to become curious and come down and say, wow, that's really cool. So that's our big show in June. And now we have started a little painting class called Paint and Palooza, and we're going to teach people how to do it.
That is so
So
exciting. Wow.
yeah, we're going to start doing that in September. So it's kind of like the sip and brush that people will go to a bar and they'll have some wine and then they'll do a painting class. Ours is somewhat like that, except we're actually going to see if we can build a skill set over time. So like first painting will be a simpler design, and then over the course of several classes, people will actually be able to incorporate real artistic skill set and then be able to learn to paint.
That is so cool.
That is
And
so
how unique.
How unique.
I love that. I'm excited. I hope you take lots of
I'm really excited about it. I'm very, very, very excited about it. I think Arlene and I have a lot to offer. She has her Bachelor of Fine Arts, And
Wow.
I have some college education, and hobby and emerging artists sometimes are fearful or not sure of what to do within the arts community because they don't understand the vernacular or the lexicon. And we want to be able to bring that to people so that hobby artists can start participating in their local arts, public arts gallery. We want emerging artists to start knowing the lexicon so they can participate in their local community. There's no reason why they shouldn't, but sometimes the local arts community isn't as welcoming sometimes. Not that they mean to be, but it's just, it's the way it's always been. And so an art gallery is kind of like a place that only artists go. And we want everyone to know that everybody's an artist and anyone can participate.
Wow, yes. So are the classes going to be local, or are you going to do some online classes too?
We have a three-prong. We're going to do local classes first. So I live in Windsor, Ontario, which is right across the river from Detroit. So we're starting there. We are planning on eventually doing some online classes. I've recently reached 1,000 subscribers, so I can do paid content on my channel now, which is very exciting. Thank you. And then we also have an idea of using the paint classes as kind of a team building thing that can be done in corporate events where we would be invited somewhere to participate with people and show them how collaborating with art allows them to collaborate in the work environment as well.
Wow, that sounds so exciting.
It is. It's very exciting.
Cool. And how did you meet your business partner? How did you guys connect?
It, like everything else in my life, it was kind of serendipity. I walked into a friend's house and he said, "Oh, you're an artist. Arlene is an artist." She was there helping him with his bookkeeping, and he said, "You guys should get together and talk." So I said, "Do you want to come to my pool and have wine?" And she came over and we bonded and off we went on our journey.
Absolutely. No way she was going to turn that down. Wine and a pretty view. No way. Very cool. Okay. What are you trying to communicate with your art?
My art, my abstract impressionist art is all about color, movement, and creating curiosity. I want the audience to feel curious about a piece so that they ask questions, they enter into conversation with me, so that they think that it's okay to approach me and say, like, what is that? And that's really cool. And that color scheme is really nice. So because my pieces are abstract, they're interpretive differently by every single person. It's all about their perspective. It's all about their feelings that day. It's all about their ability to, you know, interact with it. If someone's having a bad day, maybe they see one thing, or maybe if they're having a good day, they get really excited about something. So for me, it's all about the audience looking at it and then feeling something, becoming curious and engaging.
Wow, and that's so important. That's what art does for us. It's true.
It is, and I think it's a really good way of making art accessible to anyone. Because if someone is afraid to ask a question, then they don't get a chance to spend time to hear the artist's story and their journey. But if the artwork has a lot of movement in it, and I find that people with my fluid acrylic pours, they kind of get drawn into it because they see something, so they want to get closer, they want to touch it, which I encourage. I mean, they're all varnished, so it's okay. It can't be hurt in any way. And then they're like, "That's really cool." And then that's how you start the conversation. Really, what do you see? How do you feel? Like, what does this make you think of? Or they'll look at the title. I have one that's called Are You Experienced Jimmy? It's very psychedelic and it's very reminiscent of Jimi Hendrix. So older people will kind of go, "Oh, I remember that." And then they start talking. And these are people who generally wouldn't have had any interaction with art or artists.
Wow, that is so important and amazing. I love that. That's so unique.
Thank you.
Very cool. Okay. Do you think that you would be able to teach what you do?
Absolutely. And of course, I am in the process of starting that with the Paint and Paloozas. I always was able to, before I even painted, I always taught crochet, I always taught knitting. And I've been told by people that I can take a relatively complex idea absorb it, and then when I kind of spit it back out, I put it in very ABC 1, 2, 3 kind of language, so people can take little chunks and then move on in a process. I used to be a business analyst for the federal government, so I had to do that with, really big ideas in a project, and then take them and be able to write it out so that laymen would be able to understand, someone who wasn't familiar with the project. And I bring that to my art. I just, you know what, you can't screw it up, you can't fail, you can't do it wrong. That's my basic philosophy, is you cannot do anything wrong in art. You can always fix it, correct it, or gesso over it.
That's very true.
Yeah, don't be afraid, we're going to do it this way, from here to here. So you show them, teach a man to fish, right? You show them first, and then you give them the skill set, and then they build upon it. So I really do think that these classes that Arlene and I are moving forward with are going to be very exciting and very accessible to everybody.
Absolutely. Well, we're so excited. We can't wait to hear about them and to take them, hopefully, too.
I'm very excited about it.
Yes.
I might have to start a GoFundMe, because I'm going to need much better camera equipment.
Absolutely. Well, that's what it's there for. And I'm sure you have lots of people that would be willing to help. Yes, that is wonderful. Okay, and the next question is, what do you wish to accomplish with your art?
Again, like for my art, really, we all want to sell our artwork. We all want to have an income, even if it's just to cover the cost of our supplies so that we can make the next piece of artwork. However, in addition to that, again, to build on our last conversation, is I want artwork to be a doorway for people to come into the arts community, to engage with artists, engage with public galleries, engage with the inner creative that's been smothered all those years when they were told, you can't be an artist or you can't draw. I want them to be able to talk to that child that's in them and say, it's okay, I can put a brush to paper, I can put ink to paper, I can make something, sign it, say that it's artwork, and then sell it. And if I can do that, who knows, what if someone watches one of my videos and they think that they can't be an artist, and the next thing we know, we have a Jackson Pollock, right? Like, that would be awesome to know that, a piece of abstract art like this gets someone curious enough to actually put a brush to paper and then start their own journey. That's phenomenal.
Absolutely. Yes. And as a YouTuber, yeah, I completely understand that. That's kind of the vision for my channel, is to inspire people to create, because you're right. We don't listen to that inner voice, or we criticize ourselves, and yes. And it's really hard to take that risk. So
society doesn't actually give people a lot of places where they can fail. And I think that art is a really good place to comfortably and safely fail, because again, you can always correct it, paint over it, gesso over it, start over. You can burn it, you can do, you can do whatever you want, but it's a relatively safe place where you can't make mistakes. In my world, you can't make mistakes.
Absolutely. I completely agree. That is very true. Okay, and it looks like I skipped a question. I'm sorry to bring you back up to one, but do you strive to be unique in your creative endeavors? Please explain.
Yes. And it's interesting, because when I was trying to be unique, I was unsuccessful. It's when I let go of trying to be unique and just be me that my uniqueness started to blossom. So a year ago, when I was trying really hard to find my niche on YouTube and in the arts community and in the gallery so that I would be noticed, it wasn't an abysmal failure, but I certainly wasn't getting any traction. And when I finally let it go and said, you know what, I'm just going to do what makes me happy. And that's when I found out that people started saying, oh, that's really cool, that's really unique. That was the word they started using. And all artists are unique. Even if you're using the same technique in the same genre, no two artists are ever going to create the same piece of artwork with the same tools, the same substrate, and the same photograph. They're still going to do it differently. So I think that part of that uniqueness needs to be fostered. It's okay. You don't have to try to be unique. just be you. You are already unique, and it will come out on the paper. It'll come out on the canvas.
And that's very true. And I think that part of that is that you actually have to do it. It's like you have to take that risk, like you said, and just get it out on the paper, or get out whatever's inside of you out. Yes.
It's true, but it's interesting because people, when you say, you know, you have to risk it, the risk is actually not risking. Just leave it alone, and it will happen. And a lot of people think that it's takes a lot of hard work. It doesn't. It takes time. It takes time. It takes belief in yourself, belief in your products. Like if you have good paper and a good brush and a good paint or ink, it will happen. But it's when they try so hard, and I know, because I was there, you know, you tried so hard, because I wanted to be able to sell my artwork. I wanted people to notice my work. And I think when you do this because you're trying so hard, you actually are closing yourself off. You're not allowing the flow to happen. And
yes,
I think that everyone understands that, whether they're an artist or not.
Yes,
That
is very true.
you have to trust in yourself, trust in your paint, trust in your paper, but most of all, you have to trust in yourself to just breathe, let it go, know that you can't make a mistake, and just go for it.
Absolutely. That is very true. Okay. Do you believe that each person has a capacity to be creative, and why?
I do. And I believe that we are born creative. I believe that every single individual who is born creative. Without creativity, humans couldn't walk or talk or learn, because you need to be creative to be able to create that movement, to learn how to walk, how to take a misstep, and learn how to keep your balance. That's all part of being creative. So I think that it's society who steals creativity from people, because creativity isn't in a box, and society wants you to be in a box. You have to have a grade, you have to have a job, you have to have a cubby, you have to have a goal, you have to have a whatever. So creativity is almost like a threat to society, because there's no rules. So very early they steal that creativity, and then people think that there's only creative people can paint. We're all creative. We're all born with the innate ability to create something. Now, it doesn't have to be visual art. A musician is creative. A baker is creative. A cook is creative. A gardener is creative. Like someone who's really good at athletics, they're creative. It's magic on the field, watching a guy with a football deacon in and out between everyone. That's talent, and talent is creativity.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Everyone is a creator. That is very true. Okay. And how did you find your creative niche?
By accident and laziness. Like, I'm going to be honest with you.
Yes.
If there is an easy way of doing something, I will do it the easy way. So I think that innately it was laziness that led me on this path. And the story is that last year at the Creative Arts Collaboration in, I think it was March 2016, they had a hashtag event called CAC Fantasy Art.
Yes.
And I don't do fairies and I don't do dragons. And I was, what am I going to do? I don't do this kind of artwork. It doesn't speak to me, but I didn't not want to participate. And I was watching a guy in Australia. His name was Jacob. He has a YouTube channel. It's called Fluid Painting. And I was just watching him, and it was just, I was watching because it was cool. And then I started thinking, you know, that doesn't look very hard. I think maybe I'll just throw that together. And so I created my first piece called Lebowski's Rug. And it went on into that hashtag event. And I had a show 2 weeks after that, and I needed pieces for the show. So I was like, maybe I'll do some more. So
Absolutely.
I did some more pieces called the Lebowski series, based on the Big Lebowski, the movie. And I had some leftover paint, and I threw it on a big, huge canvas, and I hung it up. It was called Are You Experienced, Jimmy? It was very psychedelic. It had pink and orange and yellow in it. And I hung it up on the wall because I needed a piece to cover the wall. And a local art teacher from the college came in. His name was Dennis Schwartzentruber. He came in and he said, "Who did this?" And I said, "I did." And he said, "You need to do more of this." And I went, "Okay." And I started on my journey. And that's how it was, absolutely by accident. It was serendipity.
Wow, that is amazing. I've been lucky enough to see one of your beautiful acrylic pours in person.
Yes, that's right, because I sent the one to Pam Tonino, our mutual friend.
Absolutely. And it's so beautiful. And the colors that you use are just beautiful. I love color. So it definitely speaks to me. It's amazing.
It's really interesting because before I started doing fluid acrylic pours, I wasn't, like color didn't speak to me. It was very interesting. Like I was a blue person and a purple person, but if you told me pink or orange or something, I'd turn my nose up. And now, of course, it's all about the color and what the color creates when they, you know, well, not mix, but when they push against each other. So now I'm a huge color person. I'm very interested in palettes and how colors can go together. I had, just as a side, I had a live fluid acrylic pour demonstration last October, and my next door neighbor's son kind of came out with his mom, and he's a teenage boy, so he tried to pick ugly colors because I was asking people to give me color palettes so that I could do this live pour. So he picked like 4 or 5 colors, and then when I poured it, all I could hear him say is, "Oh, well, that didn't work out." And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "I was trying to make it look ugly." And I'm like, you can't make color look ugly. It doesn't matter what colors you put together. They're not going to be ugly because they will find their own place. So I ended up naming the piece "I Give Up."
That's a perfect name. Absolutely. Wow, that is amazing.
He was very disappointed.
Absolutely. He should be trying to make you make ugly art. Wow, that is so cool. So do you do a lot of live acrylic pours? That is such a great idea.
It was Arlene's idea. I have always been a studio rat. I like I never did plein air. Like I don't know if your audience knows what plein air is. It's a French term for when you take your easel and your watercolors or your whatever and you go outside and you paint nature.
Wow.
And it's was something that was highly encouraged while I was in college, and I was like, I don't like bugs, I'm not going outside. That's not happening. So I was very comfortable in my studio. I knew where all my stuff was. And Arlene said, "Oh, you should really come out and do pours." And I went, "Oh." But I did it, and it was hugely successful. Like, it was unbelievably successful. I was interacting with people. I was doing these little canvases with kids, and the mayor came by, and he was so excited. "Can you come? Can you do more of this?" So Arlene and I have started trying to create spaces where we can start doing live pours because people are fascinated by it. Yeah. Because it's so fast, right? It's not like watching an artist paint. You know, I have a friend who does absolutely marvelous watercolors and birds and all that, but it takes a significant amount of time. You're literally watching paint dry. Whereas with the fluid acrylic pours, once you pick the color and you start moving it, within 5-10 minutes on a 11 by 14 or a 16 by 20 inch piece, it's wet, but it's done. And then you put it aside to dry. People thought that was really cool. So I let them pick the palette and then I let them name it. So I have a video on my channel that kind of fast forwarded through all of them, but I did 14 pieces in, I think, about 5 hours.
That is amazing. And what a wonderful way to have people connect to your art in such a powerful way.
Yes, and they were all like, "Oh, that's so cool." And it's not hard because the paints that I do, unlike a lot of fluid acrylic artists, they use mediums, and that is perfectly fine. It's great. They use pouring mediums, and they use silicone oil, and they use other additives to get different effects, which is awesome. And children I don't use any additives in my paints so that it's non-toxic. It's just acrylic paint and water, and so they can, you know, touch it, put it in their mouth, blah, blah, blah. We don't have to worry about it. And other fluid acrylic artists also use blow torches. So fire isn't normally a good thing with small children. So with mine, we don't have any of that kind of risk. Anyone can touch it. It, you know, it washes off, all that good stuff. So I found that it like lures people. They see me with the squirt bottles and I'm going, and because of course I'm a dog and pony show, and they come and they go, oh, that's really cool. How do you do that? And I'm like, well, if you stand, we'll do another one. And then when you invite them, what colors do you want? Oh, I don't know. I've got 48 colors. And then they pick, you know, 5 colors. We do the background, and they're just, they literally lean in. They want to be part of the process.
Wow, that is amazing. And what a way to connect people to your art. I love that. I've tried craft shows because I do a few craft shows a year. So
yes,
I'll do like a piece of art while I'm at the table. But wow, just to go out in public and do it, that is just wonderful.
I think it's great, and it's a really good introduction, like for kids, because they didn't see me use a brush, they didn't see me struggle, they didn't see me with a portrait, they just saw me squirting colors out, and they're like, that's cool, I want to try it. So we had like little canvases for them to try on. So I think it's also another way of engaging non-art people into the art world.
Absolutely. In a way that isn't intimidating, you know, because
no, not at all. Well, except me.
Oh, that's true, Andrea.
In the video, when I got ready to start doing the movement of the paint, you could hear me talking to them. Everyone would stand back, and I'm like, great, I have a splash zone. This is awesome, you know.
Yes, absolutely. But they get to see your personality, and that's the most interesting part, I think, about when you see an artist's work, is that you want to know more about them. You're intrigued, you know. So that is so wonderful that they get to see you in action. That's great. Absolutely.
Yes, my dog and pony show.
That's right.
And again, like, if so, one of the things I love about it is that I can take it on the road.
Yes.
Like, I don't need anything special. I need a table, probably a drop cloth, my paints, and some kind of substrate. So, you know, if someone wants to say, hey, why don't you come over to Michigan or whatever for an afternoon? We've got like 12 people who are willing to participate in some kind of a demonstration or whatever. I'm like, okay, I'll throw it in the car, and away I go. It's great. I'm going to be teaching in Maryland this summer. Patty Tolley Parrish has her Maryland weekend where she and Paula Phillips teach, and I was fortunate enough to get like a surprise spot. So I'm actually going to be teaching pouring on paper this summer.
Wow, congratulations. That is so wonderful.
Yes,
wow.
Very, very excited.
Amazing.
So, if I can go to Maryland, I can go anywhere.
Absolutely, you can. You're going to have a ball. It's going to be awesome.
I have to get to Colorado.
Absolutely.
I have to go see you in Pan.
You do. We would love to have you and craft with you all day. That would be so wonderful.
Oh, wouldn't it be great in Pam's little area there that she has?
Oh my gosh, her studio in person is just out of this world. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. You go there and you're just inspired. And she's such a generous soul. Like she wants to share everything, which is just wonderful. And she's just a wonderful artist. Amazing.
Yes.
So it would be awesome if you could come visit us in Colorado. That'd be great.
Road trip.
Absolutely. Sounds like a plan. Alrighty, and I have one last question.
Okay.
Do you view your creative ability or process as unusual or unique?
I think my philosophy is unusual only in the sense that it allows everybody. And generally, a lot of people in the artistic community can be hard to approach. So for me, anyone can come in and play with me. I think that my partnership with Arlene is very unique. We have tried to find some kind of historic evidence where two artists have worked together on the same canvas, and we have not been successful in finding that, especially not just one piece, but a whole bunch of pieces. And the collusion art exhibit, we plan on it actually continuing. So as pieces sell, we want to replace them and kind of turn it into a traveling exhibit where it can go kind of from gallery to gallery. So we think that part is very, very unique. I think my process is unusual only because I'm very open about my process. I have no problem sharing any of my process. I don't believe that I should be charging people, or, you know, that I should just give it freely and that it will come back kind of tenfold. So I think that's a little bit unusual too, that I'm very transparent about my process, about my recipe, about how I do it. I get emails from people that say, you know, could you tell me how you did this? Sure, no problem. I think that the way to encourage more people is to just be really open and transparent with them.
Absolutely.
So I find that a little bit unusual, although I have to say, like, YouTube creators in general tend to be very open because we're showing people our process. So that was one of the reasons why I really enjoy being on YouTube, because it's a really supportive, open, transparent community. And I really wish more people would participate in that and not, you know, say, oh, it's a secret how I do this because it's unique or unusual. And I understand it because, you know, some people need to make a living and they need to eat off of their art. I'm very fortunate that my art is my own and that we have another business that helps me eat.
Yes.
I get that, but I think it's better if you're open and transparent and just let everybody in, because you never know who's going to come in that door.
And you're totally right.
Know
I
who's
agree with you.
in the door.
Absolutely. And I remember one time, Lindsay, the Frugal Crafter, she was doing like some type of art chat, and she was talking about if you wanted to be a teacher, like you couldn't hold anything back for yourself. Like you have to give it all. And I think, and that is so true. When you do that, it does come back to you. It's amazing. All the opportunities that you get from being generous. So I completely agree with that philosophy. I think that is wonderful. And it is very unique. That's very true.
Yes. And I again hope that just that transparency allows more people who thought that they couldn't be creative.
Absolutely.
Give it a try. Because literally you can buy a little 2-ounce bottle of craft paint at Michael's for $1.19, and then you can go and get a couple of panels for, you know, another $2 or whatever. And so for $5, you can shake up some paint and throw it down and see how much you love it or how much you don't love it. But maybe you do it and you say, well, I didn't like those colors. I have to go get other colors, right?
Absolutely. And plus you give people the ability to really have good results. I think like when you don't show them the whole process, it's like they get frustrated and, you know, they don't have really good results. So yeah.
And
it's so awesome.
I think that a lot of people are surprised by because I don't use additives and I don't use all of the other things that other artists do, that it's just paint and water. It's very approachable. It's very, you know, they don't have to be afraid of not getting the right silicone oil or the blowtorch.
Yeah, because I saw that before. I was like, wow, I don't think I'm not safe with the blowtorch, that's for sure.
And I'm just thinking of it from my point of view, because if you give me a blowtorch,
would not be a pretty sight for me. I'm telling you that.
I should not have access to that kind of power, right? Like, no. So for me, it's great that the process that I stumbled upon, and I was able to kind of, because I weigh my paints. So I tell people, you know, it's 50% paint, 50% water. You weigh your paint, you weigh your water, you shake it up, you're ready to go. And they go, really? That's it? I go, the way I do it?
Great secrets. Awesome.
However, on my, like I have a group, the Fluid Acrylic Painting Community, which is for people who are interested in getting started or for people who are interested in supporting that kind of artwork. And we have many people on my group who do use the additives. And so my way is also a stepping stone. So people do it my way. And even me, I've said after my big show is over and I actually have some more time, I'm going to try some of the additives, the pouring mediums or something like, I don't think I'll do the blowtorch, but I would like to start trying things new because I love the results they get. So mine is almost like a stepping stone where they can go to that next level, get comfortable with just the water and the paint, and then they start adding in some of the additives, and then the next thing you know, they're on their way.
Awesome. That is great. Very cool. Alrighty, so do you want to show us an acrylic pour?
Sure.
Absolutely.
So let me just,
yes.
get
And
comfortable.
I just want to say your website is absolutely beautiful.
Oh, thank you very much.
Beautiful with all your pictures of your beautiful art. Oh my gosh, it's so colorful and inviting. So I hope you guys go check it out. All the links to Andrea's information will be in the description box of this video. So please go check her out and subscribe to her YouTube channel. And yes, be inspired because I definitely was. It was amazing.
I can't wait to see what you do. Or again, we just need everybody to get together in Colorado and then just have some kind of like a big, huge
That's
huge
right.
thing. Yeah.
Art party or something. Something
Exactly.
really fun.
It'll be wine, right?
Absolutely. That would
Excellent.
be awesome.
So everybody's going to get a little bit seasick because I only have the one camera. So I just have to, oh, let's see if we can get that to work. I apologize profusely to anyone who gets seasick.
That wasn't bad, believe me. I've shaken up my camera a lot more than that.
Oh, I know.
On my channel. I'm always like hitting my table and it's going crazy. So
I'm going to have to tape it just a second.
absolutely.
We're going to have to use help.
Yes. Always the duct tape is always a good thing to have in your studio.
It is.
Absolutely.
Right.
Oh, and thank you guys for all your chat. There's lots of wonderful people.
Yay.
Awesome. Jane and Anne. That's great.
Okay. So let me just put down a little bit of deli paper to protect. There we go. So usually I use Tupperware lids just to lift the piece enough so I can grab the edges.
Yes.
I haven't come up with a permanent way of doing it yet, and I'm just going to use some little 5x7. These are really cheap little canvases. There was 12 in a pack at Hobby Lobby for $9. So again, a really economical way of starting the process. So you just elevate it. I always start with one of two background colors, either white or black. We'll use white this time. And I just spread it out. And the reason why I do this is because the paint, the background color of paint is kind of like a lubricant. And what it does is it just allows the colors something to move on. Because otherwise it sticks to the gessoed surface and then it won't move.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm just going to use, so these are my little bottles that I create. So when you go to my site, my #1 video is how I make these. So you can go and check it out and see how easy it is to make these. So generally I just, you just pour. So whatever colors that you like. And then I'll put a little bit of yellow in. There is no rhyme, there's no reason, and there's no right or wrong. You just do whatever you want.
That's my kind of art.
Yes. And again, normally I work on pieces that are 3 feet by 4 feet.
Wow.
So this, I don't know if you can see. There's the camera. There we go.
Absolutely. You can see it. Wow. I love the colors. They're beautiful.
Yes. So then what you do is you just pour it over the edge, because I cannot have canvas showing. That will make me insane.
Me too. I always have to paint the edges or
I
something.
know, I have to paint the edges. So
It drives me crazy too. I'm like, oh.
exactly. So on the big pieces that I do, it has to go all the way over. And then I use a heat gun to pop the bubbles.
Awesome.
And that's it. So that will take probably a couple of hours to dry. I'll do a couple more for you if you want, if you have time.
Oh, yes, we do have time. And Anne wants to know, can you make mud?
So this is the secret to my paint mixture. The reason why I weigh the paint and weigh the water is so that every single bottle has the same viscosity. So the paint that I generally use is Liquitex Basics. So the recipe for Liquitex Basics is 50-50. That's for my consistency. Some people like it thinner because they want it to mix a little bit more. And that's fine, you just change your recipe. But because they're the same viscosity, they push instead of mix. Okay. It's when you have a paint that's thinner than the other one, the thin paint will ride on top and then the water in it will mix with the one underneath and you will get mud. I've never gotten mud because they're the same viscosity. It's impossible for them to mix because they push against each other.
Okay.
I hope that helps Anne's question.
Absolutely. So do you recommend using the same brands of paint? Like if you're doing one piece?
You need the same recipe for the same brands.
Okay. So
when I use Amsterdam paint, interestingly enough, that's 50-50. But if I use any of the craft paints, I usually have to do it 75-25 because they're already more liquidy to begin with.
Yes, that makes sense. Yes.
Yeah. So in the video where I say how to mix these paints, I actually take you through a little 10-minute tutorial that shows you how to measure the viscosity so that if you have Liquitex paints and you want them to be the same viscosity as your other paints, I show you how to actually measure it really easily without any special equipment so that you can make sure that all your paints have the same viscosity.
Well, that is a wonderful reason to be a subscriber to your channel for sure. That is so wonderful.
Now, for some people, they want them to be different viscosity so they can get a different look. Yes. So I encourage people to experiment, you know, try one of the paints with more water and more liquidy and see what happens. But for me, I'm very comfortable with the way the 50-50 works. I do know that in the near future, I am going to change my recipe a little bit because I want to do something a little bit more fluidy. So there will probably be a video sometime later this year where instead of 50-50, I'm thinking of adding more water, making it more fluid so that I can put lots of paint on and not have it kind of rise up, so it will actually flow out faster.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to that video.
So we'll see how that goes.
Very cool.
So this time I'll do a background in black.
Okay.
So those are the two general colors that I use for my background. You don't have to use it. I have been known to use blue, if like the one that I had in the background there is no white or black in it. I didn't want white or black in it, so I actually mixed up extra of one of the blues so that there would still be the lubrication layer. But black and white is just easier when I'm doing a live pour. I say, pick a background, black or white. And they go, white. And then I say, pick 5 colors. And then I'll usually say, you know, pick a metallic. I like metallics in it because they kind of give it a little bit of sparkle.
Yes.
When they dry.
Absolutely. I love metallics too. I love to add into my artwork. It just adds something.
It does, and I've been experimenting lately with adding some iridescence into the paint. I actually, yeah, I did one for Arlene for our show, and I didn't tell her, but one of the blues had iridescent in it, so it kind of sparkled like waves before she even got it.
How beautiful! Wow.
Yeah. it turned out really nice.
Absolutely.
So
And Anne has another question. She said,
Sure.
after it dries, do you use some kind of a fixative so the paint doesn't break over time?
Okay, so there's that's actually a two-part question. The first part is when it's dry, I always give it a gloss coat. And the reason why I do is because acrylic paints dry matte. And I think this particular artwork looks better glossy because it looks wet.
Absolutely.
The other part about it breaking, once acrylic paint is basically a plastic polymer with pigment added to it. So if you lay it flat and it dries, what happens is the water evaporates and the plastic pigment bonds with the canvas. So it's not like when you brush it on with a brush because you get lots and lots of layers. This dries as a single layer because it all becomes one layer. And then as it dries, it bonds with the canvas. It's almost impossible to scratch the paint off after it's bonded and totally cured after 24 hours.
Absolutely. That was a good question, Anne.
It was. It was a great question. Let's see if we can get it closer again and watch the magic.
That is amazing. It's definitely magic.
I love it. I think it's so cool because you never know what the paint's going to do. And I learned a long time ago to not try and make the paint do anything. Just let the paint do whatever it wants to do.
Yes.
Oh, there we go. And then take a heat gun to that, pop the bubbles. Now, so the popping of the bubbles is for two reasons. One, the bubbles will eventually pop on their own, but if they pop after the paint has started drying, you'll get pits. And the second reason is when you sometimes pop the bubbles, the top color will pop and you can see the bottom color underneath it. And it's really cool.
Wow.
And there we go.
Amazing.
So do you want to do like some questions and answers? Do you want them to ask me some more specific questions?
Sure. Does anyone have any questions that you'd like to ask Andrea? Well, you are getting lots of love. People love this technique.
Okay. Oh, yay, I got my camera back up.
Awesome.
I had feared that was not going to work for me.
It did. It was very
great. So yeah, I would love to answer everybody's questions as long as Shemi has time.
Absolutely. And I think we're waiting. I think they're thinking.
Okay.
Absolutely. Amazing.
So yeah, for anyone that wants to try it, basically for a $10 investment, you can't go wrong. You can go out and get the really cheap little canvas panels and the craft paint, and away you go. Give it a shot.
Let's see. It looks like I'm having some trouble seeing the questions here. It keeps going in and out. Let's see. Let's see if I can reopen the window.
Sure.
I lost the chat for some reason.
Well, I'll just keep talking in the meantime.
Absolutely. Let's see. Technology, I tell you what.
Oh, I know. And one of my goals after my show, so sometime in September, one of my goals is to actually live stream while I'm pouring. So to kind of take that outdoor demo online so people can watch me do it and pick colors, like where I'd be able to say, okay, someone give me a color online. But I think I'm going to need a moderator for that.
Yes, absolutely. Okay.
And I have, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I see one question here. Andrea, have you tried high flow acrylics with pouring medium, and how did you like the results?
So I did use that once, but prior to me actually doing fluid acrylic pour, and that is the more general way that people do it. They add pigment, the high flow pigments to the pouring medium, it tends to give a very translucent look, which is awesome. That's what I meant when I said I want to kind of like try something new after my show. I do want to start getting into the pouring mediums, and then I'll be able to have some videos kind of comparing my original way of doing it with just paint and then with some different mediums. And the high flows I have here, and they're great. They're very, very transparent, translucent colors, so you can get some really cool layered effects with them.
Wonderful. And the other question is, are you going to demo this in Maryland?
Yes, so this is going to be a demo in Maryland, and then I'm actually going to teach them how to do it, and they're going to have a piece of art to take away with them when they go.
Perfect. Absolutely. Okay, and have you ever tried splattering paint over an already completed background? I think.
Yes.
Okay.
I actually did it to correct something. So I had done a fluid acrylic pour, and I accidentally touched it when it was wet, and I smudged it. And unfortunately, once the paint starts to dry, you can't get it back to the smooth look. And I was like, what am I going to do? So I actually used a layer on top to hide my oops, which is why I say you can't do anything wrong, because you can always correct it.
That is awesome. So you can layer it on top. Do you have to wait for it to dry? Do you have to like work in layers?
I would suggest that if you want to have a distinct layer, yes, because what's going to happen is if it isn't dry, you're going to put more paint on it. The paint that started to dry will start to ripple when you start to tilt it again. Okay. And then you won't get a smooth look. So you want to do your first layer, let that dry, and then do the second layer. I have done that. And in addition to that, after it's dry, I've used some of my homemade 3D paint, and I've made 3D kind of things on top of it, like little balls and stuff like that, so that it would have some texture when it's done.
I bet that turned out really cool. Wow.
That turned out really cool. That one turned out really cool. And I'm moving towards that more. I have a very large piece that I'm putting in a juried show. The show is by size of canvas, not content, so you have to do it on a 30-inch by 60-inch canvas. And my intent is to do one pour and then pour some other things and put them on top and create like a kind of a 3D collaged piece. That's the idea in my brain. Somehow I have to get it from here down
absolutely
onto the canvas.
Wow, that is great.
Which is the cool thing about Arlene and I, right? Because I do the fluid acrylic pour, and then when it's done, she has a completed background, and then she does the oils on top.
That is amazing.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, she hated doing backgrounds. When she was in school, she loved to work on the image, whatever the image was, and then filling in the background was always kind of her least favorite part. So when we got together and I gave her the first piece, and she's like, oh my God, the background's done. This is awesome. I don't even have to worry about the background. I can just do my thing.
That is amazing. And I love making backgrounds. I have trouble like coming up with a vocal image. So it's amazing how we have different preferences of what we like to create. That's amazing.
Well, one of the good things about the paper one, so I just put up a video 2 days ago about me pouring on paper. It was my first experiment with paper. Is in Maryland, the majority of the gals that are there are art journalists or card makers. So we're going to be doing it on paper, and then when it dries, they'll be able to put it through the Cricut, they'll be able to cut it up, they'll be able to do all sorts of stuff with it. Yes.
Wow. That's going to be really cool.
It is. I've gotten permission from Patty to film during the process. I just have to wait until after the weekend is over before I post it on YouTube. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to get some really cool footage of it happening.
Wow, that's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see. That'll be really, really cool.
I'm really excited about it too.
Absolutely. And what a wonderful opportunity. Wow.
Yes. I'm thrilled to death that Patty gave me the opportunity to be one of the secret teachers.
Absolutely. That is wonderful. And I saw on your Facebook page that you're doing kind of this program where you let people tell you what art to create in their workplace. They pick the colors and then
Yes.
can you tell me a little bit about that? That was really
Sure.
interesting.
So what's happened is I normally do really large pieces like this one. You don't have to do large pieces, but for me, I love doing the big pieces. And they can be, one, hard to sell because not everybody has that kind of space. And two, they're piling up in my basement. So I came up with an idea where businesses who normally have a lot of space in their lobby, they could, for free, put it up in their lobby with a didactic. So that's the label that says how much it's for. And as people come in, if someone wants to buy it, I would give them a consignment fee of 10%. So the one that you saw, which was Circus, is up at a mortgage broker's in his office, and he picked the colors. He wanted yellows and reds. So I said, okay, so I did it. I put it up, so it's up for sale for $440, and when it sells, he gets 40 and I get 400, and then I replace it with another piece. So businesses can have unique artwork in their lobby or in their offices without paying for it.
Absolutely. That is such a great way to get your art out there. That's amazing. Wow. And they have a beautiful piece of unique artwork. Wow.
And again, I think it's kind of a win-win. I get exposure to an audience that might not normally see my artwork, so people who are buying homes, and he gets to have a nicely decorated office.
Absolutely. Wow, that is so cool. I love it. How cool is that? And you like to work big? Do you normally work on really big pieces?
I have moved that way. For a long time, I was doing 16 by 20, which was good. But when Arlene and I started thinking about this show, we were like, we got to do this big. So the 3 foot by 4 foot, the biggest commission I've done is 4 feet by 4 feet. And then this next one that's going to be 30 inches by 60 inches will be my biggest piece so far. Wow. I actually want to start, so I don't know if you saw yesterday, I posted that I finally did my proposal for the Canada 150.
No, I didn't see that.
So Canada's turning 150 years old this year, so we're having this big, huge party, and the mall near my house is having, they had a call to artists to put in a proposal for a 10 foot by 10 foot space, and Arlene and I put in a proposal for a piece that's 8 feet by 4 feet.
Wow, that is going to be awesome.
Our fingers crossed.
Yes, absolutely. Fingers crossed, and lots of prayers for you to get it. That would be amazing.
We just want to keep getting bigger and bigger so that we can maybe move towards kind of outdoor, huge outdoor installations.
That's right. Absolutely.
And for those of you that are listening, 2 years ago, I wasn't painting.
Wow.
I learned to paint in 2011 at a Michael's $25 class.
That is amazing.
I walked into Michael's to buy yarn, and the lady was standing there, and she said, "Do you want to learn to paint?" And I went, "Yes, I do want to learn to paint." And she says, "It's $25. Will you take my class?" I said, "Absolutely." And that's when I started to paint. So May 2011 was the first time I picked up a brush.
That's right. That's amazing.
So if I can do it.
Yes, absolutely. It's like you said, you just need to believe in yourself and just do it.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yes.
And
try it.
I think public galleries are a really good place for hobby and emerging artists to start. You join a group show first, you sell your first piece, and then you get enough pieces and you say, I want to have my own show, and then you have your own show. And I'm not talking about just painting. People who do art journals, those are amazing. There is no reason why. Now, you might not want to sell your art journal, but you might want to display your art journal. Absolutely. And have people come and look through your art journals. So the only cost is the cost of the space.
Yes.
You don't have to sell your artwork, but you don't have to be a painter. You don't have to be a sculptor or something. If you do cards, or if you do scrapbooking, but you do really elaborate, super duper stuff, it's all art. There's no reason why you can't hang them on a wall and have people come and look at them.
Absolutely. And how do you approach galleries when you want them to showcase your art?
Well,
Do you have
I'm
any-
glad you asked that because I just started a new playlist called So You Want to Get Into a Gallery? And
That
I'm
is so
actually
cool.
going to walk people through the process from figuring out who your public gallery is, because most people don't know. I didn't know 2 years ago. I
I
had
had
no
no
idea.
idea.
Exactly. How do you submit? What do you need? What's a didactic? What's provenance? All those lexicon verbiage. That's what I was talking about, right? I want to be able to make people comfortable with the vernacular so that they can. It's very easy to get into a public gallery group show, but most people don't know how to do it. So I'm hoping to do this over the summer so that people can enter their Christmas gallery show, because usually at Christmas, public galleries will have a group show where anyone can enter. You don't have to be a professional artist. You can be anyone and put your piece in.
Wow. Well, I will definitely be watching.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for that. Because I was always curious about how people got into galleries. So that is such useful information.
It is, and it's interesting because I get emails. I got an email from a lovely lady in Montreal, which is about 10 hours away from where I am now, saying she had these questions. And I said, okay, here what is this? How do I enter? And I started answering her question, which is how I came up with the idea of starting this new playlist. And she said that she had actually approached friends that were artists and they wouldn't give her they didn't want to give her the information. Like, it's that fear thing, right? That if you're in the gallery, then you're going to take away from me. It's like, no, more for me doesn't mean less for you. It's not cake.
That's right.
We can all be in the gallery. We can
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
So that's how I came up with the idea. Then I started getting questions about, didactics. What should go on a didactic? Provenance, what's supposed to be happening with that? How do you do certificates of authenticity? How, like, all of that really business end stuff. First of all, they don't teach you in college.
Yes.
I didn't learn that in college. I had to learn it through trial and error. I was selling my piece and I needed something to go on it so that they'd be able to come back to me and buy another piece.
Yes.
If you sign your name on the front, nobody can read it. No one will find you. So you need
that is true.
Exactly, right? So you need the provenance on the back so that people could find your website, find your social media links, find out what your biography is. A hobby artist should still have a biography, an artist statement, and an artist CV, even if there's only one thing on each one.
Absolutely. And that is so useful. That's stuff that we need to know. And I'm so glad that you're generous enough to share with us.
So I'm going to probably film that over the summer after my show in June. And I really, with the expectation that they'll get the information and be able to put it into practice, so that usually in November, public galleries will have their group shows for Christmas. They'll be able to get enough pieces to put in. Some galleries have a size constraint. Some galleries have a price constraint, especially around Christmas, nothing more than $99 because they want people to be buying. Some galleries have, like, you can only put in 3 pieces. So if you're in a large city like you are, Shemi, you probably have several public galleries. So you might be able to put pieces into all of the galleries. It doesn't have to be framed. Usually one of the only constraints is that they have to be hang ready. So that means it has to have some kind of hanger on it. And other than that, you're good to go.
Absolutely. Well, I'll definitely be prepared with all your wonderful suggestions and videos. That is so cool. I can't wait. I'm so excited for you and all the wonderful opportunities that are coming your way. It's amazing.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you inviting me on today to talk to everybody. It's an awesome opportunity. As I told you before, I'm probably going to use this interview in my press release kit when I send out when we send out the information to all of the galleries, because this kind of tells my whole story.
Absolutely. And it's been just a wonderful story and so inspirational. So thank you so much for your generosity in sharing your story. And I know that you've inspired and encouraged so many people. And now we know all this wonderful information about you, and wow, I can't wait to see all the wonderful things that are to come.
Thank you. I encourage anyone who has extra questions, if they want, they can PM me, they can email me at anlom@anlom.ca, which is, I believe, is down in the description. You can go over to my channel, you can ask specific questions on my videos. I answer all questions as to the best of my knowledge, and if I don't know something, I usually pass them on to someone who does, like another channel who has more experience.
Wonderful. And that's great. And all her links and information are in the description box below. So make sure you go out and check out her amazing website. And wow, just you will definitely be inspired. And her channel, which is full of wonderful videos. So it's been such a joy. And thank you so much for joining us. It's been
Thank
great.
you, Shemi.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Okay, guys, so if you want to be interviewed for our creative journey, there's a link to the Facebook group, and I can get you all set up and scheduled for an interview. And thank you guys so much for watching and being a part of this wonderful interview with Andrea. It's been a joy to have her, and we'll see you guys later. Thank you so much. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you so much, Shemi. That was a